What time is it? It's time for another Every Other Wednesday.
I was going to ask maybe something that people have disagreed about at work.
Welcome, everybody.
The question we could ask is like, who's the best looking of the group?
No, there will be a lot of disagreement about that.
You're right. There will be no disagreement. You're right. Oh, very
People
good.
are piling in. Okay, what's the question, Richard, in the chat?
Well, the question was, what is something that you have ever disagreed with someone, substantial disagreement at work? Just what is something that you've disagreed about?
All right. Well, I disagree with you guys, but a lot.
Okay, and we'll explain why we're asking that as we get into this. But welcome. We do have a group of people filing in, so welcome everyone. And we'll take just a minute, and in the time that people are coming in the door, if you would please answer that question. What is something that you can remember disagreeing about at work? Something substantial, not the color of the break room wallpaper or something.
Or just say hello so we know you're there. I'll tell you what I disagree with. I disagree with that hospital that you're in, Richard.
Why do you disagree with it? So, folks, I am in a hospital. That's okay. I'm perfectly well. I'm working with a hospital client today. And
whoa! Perfectly well.
That's up to the. That's a matter of opinion, but I feel perfectly well. I'm at a hospital doing some work with a client today, and they were gracious enough to let me use one of their sleep clinic rooms to do every other Wednesday. There's all kind of jokes that we could make about that,
yes,
but we won't.
The sleep clinic room. You were there on a visit, are you?
No, of all of us, it would be Mike who would put people to sleep. So
there you go.
I can say that because he's not
the
here.
first thing that we have is being able to work from home, not being able to work from home.
That's not been an issue at all for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're the only one, actually.
Okay, what else? Anybody else? And thank you, Ashley, for bringing that up. Something that you have had a disagreement about. We work for state government, so okay, not bad.
Yeah.
Other disagreements. As we're getting started.
Why don't we get
in the meantime?
Well, we didn't agree who was the boss today. Silence. Richard, why don't you start?
Well, all right, I'll start off with this. So, folks, we welcome to Every Other Wednesday. My name is Richard Hadden. Today is Wednesday, June the 14th, 2023. It is Flag Day in the United States. I don't know what it is in Canada. And Mike Kerr is not with us today, or he would be able to tell us about 48 things that it thinks, that it is a day of somewhere in the world.
It is Mike Kerr Free Day.
It is Mike Kerr Free Day. And so the question that we asked at the beginning was, what is something that you have ever disagreed about, substantial disagreement at work? What is a topic on which you have disagreed with your boss, your coworkers, yourself, perhaps, at work? And we've heard something from Ashley about work from home, not work from home. Connie says at an open pit coal mine, we were once told we were taking too long to go out and start our cars in the winter. I reminded them that the smokers took a lot more time than we did. Okay. That was not one of the remedies that we had in our list, guys.
Right.
Add that to it. Okay. And Frederick reminds us that happy birthday, U.S. Army as well. I did not know it was the same as Flag Day.
Oh, wait, Jennifer, because I, many years ago, had the same problem. I was eating tuna at my desk when I was employed, and everyone, and as a group, they complained to my manager. So
and that's why
I get it.
That's why you had to become self-employed. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh God!
All right, we got a lot there. Why don't we introduce?
Yeah, we do. Okay, so good stuff. And but one of the reasons we asked this is because today we're going to be talking about how to disagree without being disagreeable. Now, the three of us, and we'll introduce ourselves in just a moment. The three of us and Mike Kerr, who could not be with us today, had a discussion about what we were going to use as an anchor for this particular episode, and we just couldn't agree on it. And so we did finally agree on this, and we did it in such an agreeable way that we thought maybe we could share some lessons about how to disagree in an agreeable way. My name is Richard Hadden, and I'm an author and speaker, the co-author of Contented Cows Still Give Better Milk. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. At the moment, I am in Marshall, Missouri at Fitzgibbon Hospital, who is a client of mine. That's where I'm working today, and I'm in one of their sleep clinic rooms. So thank you, Fitzgibbon, for giving me this. When we're done, I think I'll be able to take a nap. I'll have to be hooked up to apparatus, but I'll take a nap. Sunjay or Jeff?
Go ahead, Mr. Tobe.
Oh, I'm Jeff Tobe. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. I seem to be the anchor since I'm the consistent one in the last, I never thought I'd say that in the last few months. Excited to be here. I too am an author and a speaker. Coloring Outside the Lines is my trademark, and I focus on customer, patient, and member experience. Sunjay.
My name is Sunjay Nath, and I am from Oakville, Ontario in Canada. I am a speaker and author 3, like these two yahoos, focusing on performance and leadership. Best known for my brand, my trademark, a concept called the 10-80-10 principle. Woohoo!
Wait, I forgot to mention, I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I will be driving through Oakville, Ontario tomorrow night. So,
can I have a dinner?
I will wave.
Oh,
An international trip. Woohoo!
Exactly.
Okay. So guys, we're talking about disagreement today. And why is that even an important topic to bring up? I mean, does this happen at work?
well, I mean, only if you're human. And actually, before even dealing with it, I actually want to kind of touch on the value of it. And
Okay.
if everyone sings Kumbaya and gets along really, really well, it's actually what we call groupthink, and it's a very bad thing. So the idea of being able to have disagreements in a healthy way is, I think, critical for progress and moving forward. There's many ways to skin a cat. I was hoping someone would notice. See this?
You have a skinned cat.
Do you see that? Can you? Oh, you're on a. Nah, forget it. It's not a skin cat. But anyways, the idea is that we want to be able to disagree and be able to. It's not a gerbil. Back off. It was my 11-year-old birthday gift. It's his birthday on Saturday, and he really loves cats, and I refused to get a pet, so I got him a stuffy. It looks so real, though.
Oh, jeez.
No? Forget it. Okay.
Is this for an upcoming birthday or an already had birthday?
He had it on Saturday.
Okay.
No,
Because if he watches every other Wednesday, the cat is out of the bag, so to speak.
Ooh,
But
Saturday.
wait, but is that really a stuffed cat?
It is. It's a stuffed cat. Like, it's a stuffy.
Like a taxidermy cat?
Oh, it's not quite a taxidermy.
Oh.
It's fake.
Anyway, sorry, we got off a little.
No cats were
We would
hurt.
never do that.
Yeah,
No
you know what?
cats were damaged in the making of this product.
Right. When I hear about disagreeing, see what I'm doing? Getting us back into this. And I know that you're going to roll your eyes, but it really brings me back to DISC or any kind of profile. If anybody's done any kind of assessment, it's really understanding the person well enough that you can share with them in a way in which they need to be shared with, or work with them in a way in which they need to be worked with. In this case, I really believe it's a case of disagreeing with people in a way in which they need to be disagreed with. Does that make sense? In other words,
What do you mean? How do I need to be disagreed with? I don't question the idea that I need to be disagreed with.
okay, maybe I said it wrong.
About the certain way that I need to be disagreed
Right.
with.
That's what I'm saying. And so Richard, if you and I work together in an office, I need to get need to get to know you well enough that I know how you'll receive, a disagreement.
So you know where I was coming from.
Yes, and also how you'll receive it. I think some people, I know DISC well. I've done it for 25 years. I've trained organizations, and some people need it very direct. Just bottom line, tell me what I did wrong. Tell me what you disagree with. But that's not me. Like personally, I need it done because my feeling is, oh, you don't like me, right? That's my style. So you have to do it in a way with me that kind of caters to my ego. Richard, I know you so well that I think that it's more about talking about how it affects the team versus just you. So like I said, it's just how we approach it.
For sure. And again, the idea too is, do we approach it in the values of the person? And what jumps into my head when we talk about disagreeing without being disagreeable is I look at someone like Simon Cowell. And I think it's a great reference because whether or not you hate him or like him, he is a crass jerk. That is the brand.
That's his brand, though, isn't it? That's it. That's his persona. Yeah.
100%. Now, again, this is not an attack on him, or it's not praise for him. That is what he's trying to put out there. But the goal, if you've actually heard him interviewed and stuff, he said, I look at it as my role is to not beat around the bush. If someone, sucks at singing, I want to tell them that, because I don't want them to invest 12 years of their life to only realize going, oh, well, if that was a waste, I wish someone had told me sooner. So his approach is based on his character. He's what we're doing. He's doing a push approach, but really what we want to do a balance of a push and pull. So if you understand what's important to that person, you can approach it very differently. In fact, I just had a situation.
In that case, in that example, Simon Cowell doesn't know anything about the person, and he doesn't have time as you would in a work situation to approach it in a way that can not only keep them from going into a profession that they shouldn't be into, but still they can still feel good about themselves. He's not interested in them feeling good about themselves on the way out. Maybe they can restore that later. But in the workplace, we do need to kind of keep that in mind.
In fact, I had a situation yesterday. I was working with an organization, and this one guy was getting reprimanded, and so instead of dealing directly with the source of the issue, they went to his boss, and the boss was like, well, I don't even know, you got to talk to this guy. And they're like, well, he's being all standoffish. Anyway, so I kind of went in there and kind of diffused the situation and said that, look, at the original person you were talking to is who you want to be talking to. The thing is, you want to approach him is be factual. Don't assume because this happened, it must have been this reason. Because all the interactions I've ever had with this guy, he's fantastic to deal with. But if you all of a sudden start presuming, well, this is the motivation, he shuts down and he will be very standoffish. So again, there's a great example of, you can disagree with him and go, here are the facts, clean them up for me. How do we do this? And again, that's all about the approach. And it's nothing that says steer away from conflict. In fact, you want to welcome and bring on good conflict. One of the biggest mistakes that small businesses make is they're looking to expand and they go, I'm going to bring on Billy. Billy, my bestie. We think alike. We share the same brain. This is going to be fantastic. We're never going to have any disagreements. Yeah, but you're also not going to grow. Well, you want people to challenge the status quo in a healthy way.
Yeah, let me ask our audience to participate, because
there's some good comments.
I know. But I want to ask a question.
Okay.
Is there a difference between good conflict and bad conflict? And if you think there is, what's the difference? And don't answer yet, guys.
I have an answer. Okay.
I know you do, but let's see what our audience thinks. In the meantime, there have been some great points made.
Go for
Bob Freeman, I love what he said. He said one of the rules for an organization whose board he serves on, that decisions don't move forward unless someone offers up a minority point of view. So we can understand how some people may see it the way we apparently don't. I don't know if I read that right, but you know what I mean. So
I like that.
Great. Thank you, Celia. That's exactly the right answer as far as I'm concerned. Good conflict.
What? When Celia said that's totally not going to fly? No, something else. Oh, okay.
Celia said good conflict doesn't get personal. And that's the difference.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I think that the line between good and bad is when it gets personal.
And in fact, Jeff, if you recall, when my partner and I were visiting you down south there a month or two ago, you used a line that she now uses all the time. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I do.
Go for it.
I don't.
My line about getting serious?
Yes.
Yeah, I always say, and I don't know who I stole it from, but take it seriously, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
And I think that's I live by that. And I think it's incredibly important. And what's really weird, I swear I didn't do that on purpose. This is like right in front of me, right, sitting here on my desk. So I'm learning. By the way, my wife gave me this. So is that a hint?
Take it seriously, don't take it personally is hard to do, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Depending on your personality, right?
Yeah. Okay. What else? Rob says good conflict is constructive, bad conflict is destructive. And Rob made a comment a little bit earlier about, having disagreements expands your worldview. Now, I want to have my worldview expanded. Some people don't.
Which is a good
I wish
point.
Everybody did, but
it's a good point too, because it is very situationally dependent. I've had this conversation with my kids for years. I said, I promise you can bring any topic up to me, and I promise not to freak out, provided it's two things. Number one, it's done at the right time. Number two, it's done in the right way. So you can tell me you robbed a bank, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to turn you in, but I won't freak out as long as you do it at the right time. Like if I'm on stage and they're like yelling at me, Dad, can I use Netflix? I'm going to freak out, right? So I'm a believer of any conflict, if anything is fair game, as long as it's done, approached the right way at the right time. Do you guys hear all the sirens at my house?
No.
Oh, okay. Good
No.
for me.
Are they literally at your house? Because if they are,
No, but I'm just saying.
If they're literally to your house, it might just be Jeff and me for the next little while.
And Richard is at the hospital.
I'm at a hospital. You're about to be taken to one. I don't know. Yeah. So I have a question, guys. We're talking about disagreements, not always conflicts. I mean, I might have an opinion about something. I might have a perspective on something that's just different from yours. Does it matter, or is it different if I'm having that disagreement with my boss, with my peer, or with someone and I'm their boss? Does it make a difference? If so, how do we approach that differently?
Well, again, the conflicts, no, that you should have conflicts with everyone. You should have, let me rephrase that. You should have healthy conflicts with everyone. And that's the sign of a good work culture, is that people are open to it. That's what a suggestion box should be. It should be, I disagree with the way things are doing, or I think they can be done better, and here's my suggestion to it. So the organizations and the people that are open-minded enough to kind of go, maybe I don't have the best way, and they're wanting to learn, are create the environment where we want to be part of. So yeah, I think the approach is different. I think the timing is different. I think that, sometimes I think there are situations where sometimes it's good to call someone out in front of the group. I think other times that is the worst thing you can possibly do. And again, it depends on the situation. It depends on the personality.
Well, not just that. I think it also, the situation, because I think it depends on where you fit into the pecking order too. That's what Richard's asking.
I think that's what I'm asking.
I had a disagreement just yesterday with somebody at my client's office. And so, and that's a very difficult position to be in when you're a consultant, a trainer, and I totally disagreed with what she was saying. The tact that I have to apply is incredible, because you don't want to lose them. I don't mean the client. I don't think I'd lose the client, but I've got to work with this person internally.
Yeah. You don't want to lose their goodwill.
So it's situational as well.
Okay, so let's go with the premise that we go, and what we're hearing in the chat is, this conflict thing is good. So I do disagree with you. What are some of the things? What are some of the strategies? What should I be doing or not doing to help smoothen that? If I want to say, I love the line joke my dad told me when I was like 8. A good politician can tell you to go to hell, and you look forward to the trip.
Right.
And I think that's one of the skills, is to be able to have a conflict, but both of you walk away, even if you disagree, and still be able to go have a beer.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that brings up an important point, that even though Mike Kerr is not here with us today virtually,
he's having a beer.
He probably is having a beer somewhere. Rob says the cat turned you in, Sunjay. Oh no. But Mike's influence is here, because as we were discussing this the other day, Mike said, humor can really help with whenever there are disagreements. Sometimes we can apply humor to it, and it kind of takes away a little bit of the pain and the sting and the tension. And we can kind of look at the fact that maybe we're a little too attached to a particular position, and maybe not as much to another. So I think, just the point is, let's make sure we use humor as a tool when it can be helpful.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I think it is about skill. And back to Sunjay, what you were saying, I think you asked a question that we didn't answer, and that is, what tips or tools did you say? I don't know what word you used. Or strategies would you use?
Yeah. It's the real how-to. Right? We're going to have disagreements, so how can we do it in a way that's productive?
Yeah, I know that Sunjay and I, just before this started, we're talking about the exact same thing about using you statements, right? You did this, you did that. I think it's got to be a bit more I statements, and I felt like I feel like, I think that, so that they can correct you and still move on. But
And piggybacking on that is the I stuff can't be, it has to be subjective, not objective, right? I know you're an idiot is an I statement, but it doesn't really help the situation, right? I feel,
Not usually.
my experience has been, or that where you're taking it on you, because I think again, in a healthy relationship, work, family, romantic, platonic, in a healthy relationship, people are not shamed for the way they feel. If I feel frustrated with you, that's legit. You shouldn't feel frustrated. No, I do feel frustrated. And I think that you should never deny people their feelings. Now,
Right.
whether or not they have been misinformed or they've jumped to a false conclusion or they didn't have all the information, that's a different story. But in that moment, if they feel frustrated or angry or upset or sad, or I think you can't tell people stop feeling this, because that is how you feel. So along the lines, what you're saying is yeah, those I statements, especially to when they're about you and what you're entitled to do and feel.
I think it's ironic that you were talking about this, and then you actually said you should never be afraid to share your feelings. That's exactly this kind of statement that you got to be careful of, right? You should never.
Yeah.
You should
It's funny,
always.
'cause when I said never, I went, oh, damn it. I wonder if anyone picked that up.
Right. You should always.
Well, and speaking of always, so Carol, interesting. Carol's brother is a therapist, and Carol says he gets mad. I didn't think therapists got mad, but okay. She says, my brother, a therapist, gets mad when I say you always. Yeah. But then she says, but he does always. we do have a lot of good comments.
Yeah.
Jeff, you want to?
Yeah, Frederick. I always feel bad, Frederick. One day you're going to let us know if it's Frederick or Frederick, but
yeah.
Start with knowing your story. Why do you feel this way? And so he's saying reflect internally first, and it brings up another point. I'll finish the statement, but that I was thinking.
Oh, wait, yeah. So reflect and think about yourself. Why do you feel this way before asking why the other person feels that way?
That's the way I'm reading that, right? Take some time. Don't just knee-jerk reaction. What do you really want from the relationship? Yes, use I statements to tell your story rather than you. Keep the outcome you desire top of mind. Hold yourself accountable for any time your behaviors don't support that outcome. Yes, but, yes, and. I think that you have to be flexible enough to accept that there might be a compromise here. Yeah, this is the outcome I want, but there might be a compromise. I like, me guys, I like to say there's always a second right answer, a second way to get there. And so it's that flexibility of thought that also helps us in relationships.
That self-awareness piece, I think, is so fundamental, because
Yeah.
a lot of times when people are super frustrating for us, it's very often their story. It's a projection of an issue that they have. So, and sometimes we can accept that. We're like, oh, he's being a jerk or she's being like that because they're going through this or having personal issues, whatever it is. And then someone tells us that, we're like, oh, okay, yeah. So keep in mind, on the flip side of that, when you're emotionally charged and you're at your peak or valley, chances are you're projecting something that's from your own childhood or your fight that you had with your bestie 3 hours ago. So that self-awareness piece, and whenever I find that in terms of self-regulation, whenever I get emotionally peaked or valleyed, I kind of go, wait a minute, because it's almost never about squeezing the toothpaste.
Yeah.
There's always something else in there. It's about control. It's about communication. It's about listening. It's about trust. It's about something else. It's deeper and much more rooted. And if we can become aware of that, then we can be more balanced in having those conversations, so that I can, hold my breath and count to 10 and then through my teeth say, Jeff, when you squeeze the toothpaste in the middle, it bugs me, right? And we can have a much more rational conversation.
I want to go back to something Rob Morris said. Maybe he is Robert, I don't know. But anyway, I like what he said, but so he said direct challenging may not always work. Indirect takes skill. And he gave us an example. That's one way to look at it. How about, well, I want to throw out another 2 words that just from experience, and it's also what I teach a lot of organizations. But instead of how about the 2 words, what if? And what ifing, if I can use it as a verb, we don't have time now, but I can prove always opens up a dialogue. As long as a what if question and bite your tongue.
Well, Jeff, I have a question. What if it doesn't?
Yeah, I know. Well, then blah, blah, blah. So the point
You
is
know,
that you want to open up a dialogue, and that's where you both come to a place where you both agree on whatever solution. What if we did this? And the person goes, yeah, but you know what? What if we just did this? Okay, what if we did that? So it's back and forth until we both feel comfortable with the solution. So I want to suggest people start using what if statements too.
the but statement. So there was I can't remember, it's an exercise I did years and years ago. And they gave us a topic that was one of these, set you up for arguing. You know, you're arguing red is better than blue. You're arguing blue is better than red. Go. And so they gave us the exercise. And the rule was, if anyone said the word but, they got a 2-minute timeout.
Oh.
It was a 2-minute minor. And so because the idea is, what they went on to say was, when you say but, it tends to negate everything you said.
Right.
Well, that's great, but my idea is better. So replacing with an and or what if or those kind of things. So that, again, that's that self-awareness, because some words definitely are harsher than others, some are softer than others. Again, though, some people really legitimately don't care. They want you to speak in point form and give it to me in bullets. And if but's the most effective way, that is fine. And so really it's a probability conversation. What are the greater chances of being able to have that conversation with someone and not irate them, or not put them on the defense, or not shame them, or not make them feel yucky and icky?
Jeff, we have a question in the actual Q&A part that's asking about the conflict that you had with your client recently. Can you tell the story of how you resolved that conflict?
Yeah, it was yesterday, so it is not resolved yet.
It's not resolved.
I will tell you the conflict really is exactly what I was talking about. In my mind, it's a conflict of our styles. If you know DISC, and I'm sorry I keep referring to it, that's what I know best, but you know, I'm a high I. So I'm a big picture thinker. I'm not detail oriented. You know, I can come up with the ideas. I need somebody to go do it. This person is a high C, which is conscientious and very analytical, detail oriented, you know, step by step. And if you miss a step, then you are, you know, you're off the island. And I guess I missed some steps. I agree with that. I don't know why the steps are necessary. And I approached her to say, please explain to me why these steps are necessary. It seems redundant. And that was just like something I just shouldn't have said, I guess. So today, this morning, actually, I actually called her directly and apologized. I said, you know, and I explained to her, I know you probably don't know DISC, and she didn't. And I said, this is just a conflict of our styles. And in the future, this is what I need from you. And she kind of hung up on me, but her boss texted me or emailed me actually this morning later at noon and said, you must have said something, because she said she's thinking about how to work with you better. So I guess it's being resolved. I didn't get that impression, but it is that. Well, I don't know how I could have approached it differently, you know. So,
well, you know, we learn from all of that. That's pretty much how I probably would have approached it. I also wonder about, and maybe I already know the answer to this question, but I'll throw it out there. What if we have a good relationship with someone and we are disagreeing about something? Jeff, it sounds like this is not somebody that you had developed a particularly strong and tolerant relationship with. But if we do that, and then if we disagree about things, we know where we're coming from. We know that they're ultimately good at heart or not, but we'll assume that they are. Yeah. And I think that makes the conflict a little different. I come back to a situation years ago when our daughter was first learning to drive. So she was 16 and she just had her license. She backed out of our driveway, and the tire went a little bit over into our neighbor's yard, because our driveway is the property line. Went over to our neighbor's yard. This neighbor had just moved in a few days before, and then our daughter, you know, drove off on her merry way. About 5 minutes later, there comes an angry knock at the door, and it's this woman. I don't know who that is, but if that's your daughter, you better tell her how to drive. And she put her car tire on my grass and all that. And I said, excuse me, have we met? And it just occurred to me, wait a minute, woman, to this woman, I thought, we do not have a relationship. And now, if we had gotten to know each other, if I had gone over there, if we had gone over and taken her a pound cake or something ahead of time, she might have approached it a little bit differently. But I think when we know each other, we can do it. I don't know that it's a good idea to have a disagreement with someone that we don't yet have a relationship with. We can't even tell where they're coming.
You're right, but the situation I was in is typical. That we were, she's not my client, she's not my contact. She's an implementer of something that we're doing. And so we got thrown together. But there's no reason that we would ever encounter each other except on this project team, we got thrown together. And but that happens to all of us, right? So
which is also another good point, which is sometimes the best strategy is to get the hell out of there. Yeah. Right. It is an exit strategy. It's going, all right, we need to tolerate each other. Because again, we don't need to sing kumbaya with everyone. And in fact, it's detrimental sometimes. So if we're have the self-awareness kind of going, I know that I don't get along with those types of people. So I'm going to minimize the contact best I can. Yeah. You don't always have that luxury. However, when you do have the luxury, you don't have to convert people and you don't have to be converted. So you've gotten certain amounts of successes in your life by being the way you are. Doesn't mean we aren't all works in progress and we're looking for ways to continue to grow. But there are times where it's just easy to say, yeah, that's enough. I'm out of here. Thanks, but no thanks. And we'll smile at each other. And it's too hard to actually get into your skull. And they probably think the same thing about us.
Right.
Well, and
Richard, I was laughing out loud just because of what Ashley said about your neighbors. So.
Oh, I know. Oh, listen, don't even get started. We've lived in the same house for 35 years. We do not know very many of our neighbors.
Oh, okay.
It's always been that way. So it's just a strange neighborhood.
Anyway, the unsocial one.
So, because nobody knows anybody. Nobody knows anybody. It's just a weird neighborhood. Anyway, but what we were just saying makes me think a little bit about something that I learned a few years ago, and that is, when there is a conflict, when there is a disagreement, one way to approach it is to ask the question, which is more important, the issue or the relationship? And sometimes the issue is more important. Sometimes the relationship is more important. I think that can be some guidance in terms of when to, as you say, Sunjay, when to say, I'm out of here, when to let it go. All right. So, and I guess one context that this was in was, if you have two surgeons and they're operating on someone and one sees something and the other disagrees, and, surgeon A thinks that his or her point is going to save the person's life. Even though the relationship might be important, at that moment, the issue is more important than the relationship. But there are other things where we would say, you know what, we're going to have to have other encounters like this. We're going to be working together for a long time together. I'm going to be willing to, sometimes the phrase is used, I'll be willing to lose the battle in order to win the war. And it's not that it's a war, but I'm going to give up this small thing so that there will be more hope of a longer lasting, fruitful relationship.
Yeah,
Sunjay, we got to get him out of the hospital. He's talking about surgeons.
There you go. You think that people could park their egos, right? Another cliche that I love is fix the problem, not the blame. So let's do what's right for the client, for the customer, for the whomever, and then take it offline, and you and I can go duke it out. Because that's the other thing too is the public duking outage. The other one too, I think it's called Hanlon's razor, and I'm paraphrasing it and butchering it, but it said
whose razor?
Hanlon, yes,
okay.
Hanlon's razor. It says, never attribute to malice, which could be equally explained by stupidity.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that point being that people are not out to get other people. People are out sometimes to serve themselves, and they by serving themselves, they don't care about other things, but they're not malicious in general. You haven't met my ex, but in general, people don't wake up in the morning twisting their mustache going, what evil plan can I unfold today? Right. So I think that we going into either getting feedback or giving feedback that's in an awkward or a tense situation, we have to keep that in the back of our head. Park our egos, understand that this isn't necessarily malicious. Take it seriously, don't take it personally, And again, there's all kinds of things. You watch the statements. don't use assumptions on their behalf. Like, so that's another thing. You want to get people to boil over. Use phrases like, I know what you're thinking, or, you know, Carol is saying, you know, you always do this. And when people start feeling attacked, very, very few people try to calm down and de-escalate the situation. What they go is, oh yeah, well, remember 1974 when you looked at me funny? And we go off to La La Land.
Yeah, I think
Sunjay, you do not remember 1970.
Exactly.
I
think
Bob
we're
says
skirting-
don't confuse Machiavellian with awkward and wrong.
Yeah. I think we're skirting around communication and as a whole. You know, I think that.
No, I think that's what I disagree. Jeff, I think we are talking about communication.
You can have your opinion. I
see what
certainly
you did
hadn't
there.
thought of it. I hadn't
Because
thought of it
what
that
if-
way.
Yeah, but what if?
Well, let me finish. So,
Hold on though. I want to say it's 1:35 in real time, and it took us 35 minutes before someone used that really bad joke. So I'm proud of you guys.
I think that it comes down to the three areas of communication that we're all familiar with. You can't just think about how you're saying it, your tone. It's also your body language. It's also the words you're using as a combination. And I think that depending on how you're having that disagreement, I've disagreed with somebody on email, right? Toughest thing in the world, because you've lost your tone of voice and you've lost your body language. Now you're down to just the words, And if they're capitalized, are you yelling at me? Is that what? Yeah. So I'm just saying, we have to be aware of our communication as well. One of the things that I learned a long time ago in my personal relationship, and my wife is great at, because she's a professional mediator with employment disagreements, is by starting your retort to somebody as I hadn't really thought about that way before. And still going on with your opinion, but at least acknowledging that maybe there's another way to look at this.
I like that.
And I've used that a lot in my professional life.
I notice you say it a lot to me too.
Not so much to me, Sunjay. What could that mean?
I think that intent can't be understated as well. Because again, if someone is not as expressive or articulate, but we know where they're coming from, that can often, keep things low, and get out of our own heads and thinking that we're right. That it reminds me, I was in Denmark. Oh, this is 20 years ago. And it was
Denmark, Ontario?
Denmark, the country.
Okay.
And by the way, and you probably guys know this, that there are people who are not politically correct, who are just genuine salt of the earth, love everyone kind of people. But there are people who are politically correct, but are the most racist, sexist, homophobic, blah, 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 but they play the game. So I was in Denmark, and there was a gentleman speaking. He was doing a lecture. He was an Irish guy, thick Irish accent. He's doing his lecture. And in the front row was a Scottish gentleman who was brown.
Watch it.
No, he's a Scottish gentleman that was brown. So he's of East Indian descent.
Similar to the first minister of Scotland today, who is Scottish.
I know that. There we go. So he put up his hand to ask a question, and he starts asking his question, and he has a thick Scottish accent. And the Irish professor goes, whoa, 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 whoa. And then he goes, you're not supposed to talk like that. You're supposed to talk like this. And he starts mocking an Indian accent. Now, every North American in the room was having a coronary. They're like, oh my God, we're gonna have your job. You're not gonna work. Your grandkids will never work. They're freaking out. All the Europeans in the room started laughing. And I was like sitting there. So I actually went up to I went up to the Scottish guy, because I had met him. And I was like, what did you think of that? And he was like, I thought it was hilarious. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. If he doesn't have a problem with it, and the professor doesn't have a problem with it, why am I sitting on my high horse saying this is the way it should be? Right? So even though, because the intent was not to be racist or anything, they were just having fun. And don't get me wrong, people can cross the line, and they do all the time. But if you're looking to get offended, you're going to succeed. So if people are looking to feel personalized and attacked and all that kind of stuff, and we assume the intent is to attack us versus we assume the intent is people are trying to make us better, make our organization better, we approach and we have the conversation at a different level.
Okay. I want to ask one, and it might be the last question that we have to do, and that is, does it help or not if we have a position, somebody else has a different position, does it help to bring data to the argument? Or does that just make it worse?
It depends.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't say definitively, because again, does that person need data to be convinced? I need to know that.
Why are you sleeping? Carol's sleeping.
I think she
Oh
was.
my God.
I think she was. That was in
because
reference
she
to
heard data.
Data. All right. I guess what I'm saying is, if I have a position and you have a position, if I have something to back up my my position, some data, it doesn't have to necessarily be pie charts, but if I have some data, does that help, or does that just kind of rub salt in the wound? I'm asking. I don't know.
Well,
Again,
in the quintessential negotiation book, Getting to Yes, they talk about using an objective standard, using a third party. And I'm a big believer of using data. Now, you're not talking data as in pie chart. It could be a story. It could be an expert. It could be an example. There are different ways of doing it. But sometimes when you and I are stuck, if we can go to a third party credible source that says, hey, this is the way they look at it, I think it can open up an avenue for further discussion rather than building up walls. So personally, I'm a big fan of it, but done in the right way for the right person. So if you start putting on, laboratory reports and research, and I don't care, and I'm a people emotional person, then you're dividing us more. Whereas I'm an analytical person and I want to prove the facts to me, show me the research, show me the data, then that really helps.
Yeah, and
Our
brings up
audience
the
is-
point that it can't be it's not, you don't have to use data if it's something personal.
That's
Right.
right. Our audience is so much more insightful than we are. What are we doing on this? But first of all, Ashley says, I love a good Venn diagram. Jill says, yeah, data provides substance, proof of your point. Brian, data is good. Data overload is bad. Well, truer words were never spoken. And then, as Frederick says, if it's about something personal, data will be irrelevant.
But I do have a warning, and I live by this, because I have a T-shirt that my wife also bought me years ago. It just has MSU, which looks like maybe a state university. No, it's makes stuff up. So the worst that you can do when you're in disagreement is start making stuff up, right? I once read that blah 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 blah. Okay, show me. It's like
44.4% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
Exactly. And I say it tongue in cheek. It's easy to do in the heat of the moment, to try to prove your point. So if you're going to prove your point, make sure you've got correct data.
And as Rob says, never let the truth, data get in the way of a good story, though.
Right.
I made a career out of telling stories on stage. Yeah.
And he also disagreed with your. He
Right.
disagreed with your 44%, Sanjay, as well.
Apparently. Can we block people out of the calls moving forward?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so have we agreed on anything today, gentlemen?
Yes, we've agreed to disagree. So, I mean, literally, we've agreed to disagree with other people.
We agreed that the cat looks real.
Well, I think the cat is great, Sunjay. You did not have that when I was there at your house.
Right.
I think maybe one thing that we can say, if we're looking at kind of putting a nice bow on that, and that is, I think if we agree on the objective, what?
I'm just laughing at what Rob said. Like, you just have to read what Rob said there.
What were the other topic anchors for today?
They all had to be better, didn't they?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, what? Oh, I've completely forgotten what I'm saying.
That's all right. We're done.
I think if we agree on the objective, but not on the route to getting there, I think that's much easier than if we don't even agree on the objective. That was a point I wanted to make about 40 minutes ago, and it's just now reached my time.
By the way, Carol said in accounting we use the swag method. Some wild ass guess. Yes. I think my accountant does that as well most of the time. So.
Well, folks, I hope you have found this to be, at least entertaining, if not enjoyable, and maybe just, again, I don't think we ever come out with anything that absolutely nobody has ever thought about before. But hopefully what we do is to serve as a can opener for your brain and really start getting some of these things to be thought about so that you can have discussions with people you work with around all these things. So I don't know, do you agree, gentlemen, that maybe this would be a good topic for people to discuss at work?
No.
Yeah, as long as they agree to do it. So, no, I definitely think so. And I think that, the more you can talk about this before a disagreement,
Yeah.
That
Oh
will
man,
be when you have the
having a
disagreement.
process in place, or as my friends would say, a process in
Yes.
place before the need for the conflict comes up.
Yeah,
That's
Richard, I know for a fact tomorrow you're teaching that hospital personnel or leaders
Yeah.
on how to have difficult conversations, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of training that I think people need. So there, I put in a plug for you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, the proactive.
Okay, folks. So 14 plus
28.
14 is 28, June 28th. It is my sister's birthday, June 28th, always has been.
Very
And
exciting.
so I can remember that. And I think I'll be here. How about you, Sunjay?
I believe so, but it's the day before I take my kids to go watch Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
That's-
Excellent.
You need your rest. Maybe you won't be here.
Yeah,
And I have no clue as usual until the
that's right.
So guys, good to see you.
And we hope that Mike will be here as well. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll be back in 2 weeks for another fascinating anchor topic on every other Wednesday. See you then.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
folks.
Bye.